I think it's a reflection of the concern that we all have about this disastrous proposal, that here in Mosman, you know, that people would come out and show their support and seek to have this atrocious proposal overruled. And there's no doubt that we've not yet lost the day.
My address is entitled Why Aged Care Should Be Elsewhere. There are times in life to stand on principle for what you believe in, ladies and gentlemen, and the Sydney Harbour Federation Trust was entrusted by the Parliament for us, the people, to manage these precious and historic harbourfront sites. I worked for John Howard at the time the Trust was established, and I believe the Trust has, in this development, at Terminal 10, breached that trust and failed to meet the intentions of policymakers. Now let's just walk through it. What were some of those intentions? And I've got some quotes here to share with you, and I'll ask you to tell me whether the Trust has kept true to those intentions and those statements, and indeed the very purposes for which the Trust was set up. In September of 1998, John Howard said, "The Trust will manage the sites with the objective of maximising public access to the sites, cleaning up contaminated areas and rehabilitating public land. It will preserve heritage buildings and features of the sites." Has the Trust kept true to those statements? No! It certainly has not. John Howard went on to say, "The Trust will be a transitional body asked to ensure that the sites are properly rehabilitated and returned to the Australian people. It will have 10 years to complete the task," this is in 1998, "and after that time, the Commonwealth will transfer Middlehead for inclusion in the Sydney Harbour National Park." I ask you, has the Trust kept true to those statements? No! Of course it has not. Mr Howard also said, "The Trust will prevent any ad hoc treatment of the return of the land to the people, and it will ensure that there is maximum weight given to the desire, not only of local residents, but the desire of all Australians, that maximum advantage be derived in open space and for recreational purposes." Has the Trust kept true to those statements? No! No, of course it has not. But it gets worse, ladies and gentlemen. The Trust itself, in its management plan, the management plan of the Sydney Harbour Federation Trust, says it will create a headland park to ensure natural and cultural assets are conserved. And it states, I quote, "The vision for the park is a place where the area's rich natural and cultural heritage, including its early Aboriginal and military occupation, will be protected and interpreted. The Middlehead precinct is the culmination of the Headland Park, a gateway to Middle Harbour from the land and the water." Has the Trust kept true to even its own statements? No! Of course it hasn't. It's pretty hard to do that when there's a big commercial development in the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a litany of failure by the Trust to do precisely what it was entrusted to do. Shame on the Trust, I agree absolutely. Now, what should be on this site, ladies and gentlemen, and this is, can I say, a rare, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make a mark, to make and retain history, to unify cultures and communities, and to have a presence there that everyone can use, visit, share, and be proud of. And a proposal submitted by myself and Dr. Peter Jones AM, who's here with us today, would meet those precise intentions. A centre for learning, tourism, culture, events, hospitality and office space, with multiple users and multiple uses, both public and private. A financially viable centre that would return a minimum of $500,000 per annum in income and in time be self-sustaining. A centre that generations to come will in time thank us for. A centre that best serves the past, present and future of this most precious national site. And a centre, my friends, that with our strong support, commitment and determination could still today become a reality. So I say, let's turn that Trust failure around and make this centre come to life as a great national asset and to serve our national interest.
I want to give you a couple of thoughts, and they are along the lines of dereliction of duty and collusion. Let me deal with collusion first. This project could not have got past first base if members of the Sydney Harbour Federation Trust had followed their trust deed both in spirit and the letter of the law, it would have been thrown out. I now want to talk about dereliction of duty. When those buildings were handed over from the Army and the keys given to the Harbour Federation Trust, they were in fine shape. We would not have been occupying them or maintaining soldiers in those barracks had they not been in a good, habitable, workable state. And members of the board have admitted that the buildings were such good condition that they decided to leave them to last. Ho hum, I think someone had an ulterior motive from the outset, because why would you leave buildings that could have been put into adaptive use on the day you were given the keys and put them into community use, instead of leaving them empty, unguarded, unfenced, so they could be vandalised? They didn't even bother to clean the gutters, so that the water damage accelerated the damage to the main building.
Shame.
Shame. Why am I reminded of a recent case before ICAC that dealt with the shonky dealings of rights for a coal mine and a certain making a profit by a private entity set up for that purpose? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, collusion, incompetence, dereliction of duty, and something smells of fish. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, just to remind you what Tony Abbott said in 1997, that all bushland must be protected forever, that there should be no large-scale commercial development, that heritage buildings should be protected and restored, and that any redevelopment must be confined to existing spaces in existing areas, and that the military's departure should produce a better environment for the people with more open space, more bushland and more public areas to the last unspoiled headlands in Sydney Harbour. Therefore, this meeting representing the people has lost confidence in the Trust Board, its Executive Director, and that the federal government should replace them. That is the motion.
Seconded.
Thank you. Do I have any people opposed to this motion? Therefore, if you support this motion, could you please accept it by acclamation and raising your hand?
Yay!
Thank you very much.
Carried unanimously.
Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead!
Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead!
It's said that Tony Abbott is a great student of John Howard. Well, I would remind Tony Abbott that John Howard failed to pay attention to his electorate and his electors and lost his seat. Tony should look in his rear view mirror a bit more and come and speak to us.
Under the Act, we are supposed to advise and make recommendations to the Trust. We could have said to them, basically, you're making a bad mistake, do not go ahead. We were never given that chance.
Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead! Save Middlehead!
A complete and utter breach of trust, breach of faith, and I believe a breach of the law in allowing this proposal to turn public land, public space, public property over for private and commercial financial gain.
To the Murray's waters, this land was made for you and me. This land was
Untrue. We had never made a decision. It was to be stood over to make decisions, and they never brought us back because they knew that we would have recommended a refusal.
to the wilds of Kakadu. This land was theirs before we came.
They are destroyed 2/3 of a heritage building, military building, 2/3 of it when their obligation is to preserve and protect heritage buildings. Their own assessment put this as a rare and exceptional heritage building, complex of buildings, and they are destroying 2/3 of it in what they're proposing to do with a 2-storey aged care facility, and that is not preservation, protection and conservation of heritage, it's destruction of heritage.
It's sparkling waters, it's bushland sacred, our public parkland.
And what did the government, Tony Abbott, say about preserving
Well,
that area specifically?
Can I not get into party politics, but can I say this? He has sent a letter around to constituents and others in his electorate supporting and praising the decision.
Our public parkland. This land is your land, this land is my land. Sydney Harbour, it's sparkling waters, it's bushland sacred, our public parklands. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me.